Well, a very good afternoon to you wherever you're watching us from. This is your home of business, KTN Financial Markets Live on the 24th of May 2012. My name is Boni Tunya. Now we look at factors to watch in the Kenyan market, where the Kenya shilling held steady against the dollar on Thursday, but traders say the local currency could be pressured by increased liquidity and debt yields, tampering off into the single-digit level. Commercial banks quoted the shilling at 85.20 buying and 85.40 selling per dollar at the same level it closed on Wednesday. Now, the Central Bank of Kenya has been in the market mopping up liquidity in 2012 and selling dollars directly to commercial banks to support the local currency. Now, the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, will provide a $33 million loan to the Republic of Kenya to finance the Upper Tana Catchment Natural Resource Management Project. An additional loan amounting to 12.8 euros from the Spanish Food Security facility and the trust fund will also be provided to fund the same project. The new project will help smallholders and farmers in the area to reduce rural poverty through sustainable management of their natural resource base. And the CFC Stanbic Bank posted a 61% jump in pre-tax profit for the first quarter, propelled by high income ranking among the largest banks in the East African among the nation. Now, the CFC is controlled by South African Standard Bank through the CFC Holdings. CFC Bank, which posted a pre-tax profit of 813.8 million shillings, nearly doubles its total interest income in just over 3 billion shillings for the same period, but underperformed its rivals in deposits and lending growth. Now, the Old Mutual seems to be on a recovery path as Samsung launches a new handset for the low-end consumer, as well as profits from the leather sector set to rise in the coming. All this coming up in the corporate briefs next. Old Mutual seems to be on a recovery path after recording a 40% growth in business, with growth in premiums rising to 554 million shillings in 2011, up from 510 million in 2010. The company, however, recorded an operating loss of 200 million, a slight improvement from the previous year when it had a 600 million shilling operating loss. The company attributes the improved performance to its cloud-based customer management system. And electronic giant Samsung has unveiled a smartphone for low-income bracket of society. The Galaxy Pocket is targeted at enabling mobile subscribers to upgrade from basic mobile handsets functionalities to smartphone capabilities. The device allows for the user to multitask between several applications without having to close any of them. This enhances the user experience and allows them to be more productive. The Galaxy Pocket is 11.98mm slim, weighing only 97 grams and featuring a 2.8 display, is portable while still ensuring comfortable viewing of content and images. And finally, profits from the country's leather sector are set to increase by about 1 billion shillings if the country embraces value addition in leather processing. The company's income from leather stood at 5.9 billion shillings in 2010, despite poor animal husbandry, slaughtering process, and poor preservation of hides and skin, with the Industrialization Ministry saying value addition is likely to contribute to 20% of the growth in profits. And now look at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Look at how your money is performing right now. Looking at the day's top gainers, Express Limited is up 8.82%, selling at 3 shillings and 70 cents, while National Bank of Kenya is up 6.10, selling at 21 shillings and 75 cents. Pan Africa Insurance is up 5.41, and you can get it at 29 shillings and 25 cents, while the Chumi Supermarket still on winning ways, up 1.57, selling at 19 shillings and 35 cents. CFC Insurance Holdings closes that group for us up 1.30 to sell at 7 shillings and 80 cents. A quick look at the day's top losers. Ravi Pingo down 4.19, selling at 16 shillings, while the NIC Bank also down 3.45, selling at 35 shillings. Total Kenya down 3.03, selling at 16 shillings, while Safaricom down 2.66, selling at 3 shillings and 40 cents. Of course, I'll be giving you more live market data as they stream in. But time to have our afternoon chat, and I'm now joined by Chris Thomas, who's the chairman and CEO of BBDO Asia. All I know, it has got to do something with branding. So what exactly do you do at BBDO, Thomas?
At BBDO, we are one of the largest global advertising agencies. We've been around for over 120 years. Yes. We have around 15,000 employees, wow. 280 markets, 280 offices in about 70 countries around the world.
And you're just setting up shop in Kenya, yes?
We are here.
Why the Kenyan market?
Look, I mean, with the Kenyan market and the whole of the African market is obviously seeing explosive growth. Consumer brands very important. Many of our multinational clients becoming increasingly active here. And obviously we want to make sure we are here and affording the services we provide to our clients in those markets.
How do you compare, and I'm sure you've not worked in the African market, but now that you're getting into, and I'm sure you've had some data and collected info, how does it compare to the global trends?
Well, I think what's interesting is one of the things we've done is we've brought the African and Asian leadership closer together. Because I think a lot of the learnings that Africa can teach the world are very relevant to some of the developing markets in Asia, and likewise the same. So you see lots of similarities between high growth markets, how you reach people in rural areas, rise of the digital penetration, mobile handsets, etc. So lots of similar challenges between Asia and Africa, and we're learning from each other.
Now, just recently, Millward Brown issued a survey on the top brands in the world, and some two African brands featured, MTN and Airtel. Well, Bharti is not really African, but has presence in Africa.
Of course.
What do you attribute this kind of growth to?
Well, I mean, look, there's been essentially in the developing markets, if you look at Airtel's home base of India, India has skipped fixed line and gone straight to mobile, and it's primarily the main connection to internet. So you're seeing communications tools and those brands being used with enormous utility in those markets, in rural areas and in urban areas. So I think they're fantastic brands. I think Airtel's a fantastic brand and MTN's a fantastic brand.
And probably what lessons can African brand makers learn from the counterparts in the West, some of the people you've worked with?
Well, I'm interested in learning lessons from African brands, but obviously from our perspective, we work on a whole range of global brands. For us, the key is to make sure that the brand has a strong core idea and reason that it lives in people's lives, and our job is to identify that purpose and to communicate that as an emotional, engaging a way as possible.
Interesting. Now, and we're just still talking about brands and building brands. An issue that keeps coming up in Africa is that African corporates don't really know the value of their brands. Is that true, and how can they improve this?
Well, I have to say, I mean, I've looked at a lot of African brand work, and I think there is an opportunity to develop deeper engagement with consumers. And I think for us, BBDO is very much about our creative products. We call it the work, the work, the work. We're in the business of developing the world's most compelling commercial content. And the reason for that is there's a very powerful link between creativity, highly noticeable, visible work, and sales effectiveness. And I think that there needs to be greater creativity applied to brand building. And I think it's a very powerful discipline for all businesses and all brands.
Now, coming into Africa and, of course, trying to sell these brands that currently exist in not just Africa, but also in other developing markets. What do you think are the unique stories in these kind of markets?
I mean, I think the stories in this market are ones of obviously rapid growth, rapid development, massive cultural diversity. So for brands and businesses, it's about managing complexity, but in our view, also boiling it down to what we call a reductionist nugget. What do you stand for? What are your values? What are your beliefs? And then you communicating those in a compelling way, in a way that can cut across media boundaries, cultural boundaries, and reach out to people.
Interesting. Now, still looking at trends in brand building and in commercials, really. We've seen a surge in the use of animations and cartoon, moving from the traditional, where we just have people talking and music. Where is this leading to, and what's the next stop for brand building?
Look, at the end of the idea, I'm not, for us, there are countless different ways of executing ideas. Animation is one. The rise of digital is another, which is giving us all kinds of extraordinary opportunities to reach consumers in different ways. So for me, it's not about the technique. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the creative ideas, and then we will look at what is the best technique for executing those ideas brilliantly in such a way that they create the most impact and engagement.
And now, you still coming onto the new market, new African markets, we've seen multinational set up shop in Kenya, and not just Kenya, other places in Africa. How much of local involvement is going to be part of, say, BBDO in Kenya?
It'll absolutely be about local involvement. I believe that great brands and great work has to be rooted in culture. And obviously, you know, I'm not from here. I can't impose my culture on your culture, and I would make terrible mistakes if I did. So our teams are always, as far as possible, local people. But what we do is provide network support, huge organisation around the world who can provide resources, skills, knowledge that we can leverage in individual markets around the world. So in pretty well any category anybody was to operate in here, we've got learnings from developing markets, developed markets, learnings across all media, some of which may be relevant, some may not. Always it's about trying to find true cultural relevance to brands because that's what connects with people.
Now finally, Chris, as you set up shop in Africa, what are you looking forward to, and what sparks the excitement in this kind of venture?
Look, I mean, we love building operations from the ground up because we have a very powerful culture and we seek to preserve our own BBDO culture and to make sure that that's what we're applying to the market. So for me, I'm not excited about size. I'm not excited about growth. I have no...
Because I wanted to ask you, where do you anticipate competition from?
For me, the issue is about being good. And if you get great people on the ground, you produce really powerful work that builds our clients' business, then growth follows. So I don't measure growth, I measure quality.
And very, very lastly, there are, of course, brand builders in Africa currently, you know, from different places. How do, you know, the practice compare with global standards?
Well, as I said, I mean, I think that there are always going to be high points. Our job is to make sure that we bring in more high points. And for me, that's about doing what we do best, producing and delivering the most compelling commercial content. And that's what we're here to do.
Well, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Well, there you have it. Chris Thomas from the BBDO coming to set up a branding shop in Africa. Something to look out for in the African market. Of course, we'll be keeping you updated on the latest happenings in the Kenyan market. Just before we take the break, time to look at how Yomani Steel is performing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, where the all-share index is currently at 79.14 points. The 20-share index, a slight drop from what the figures we had yesterday, doing 3,678.02 points. The FTSE 15 index down to 104.97, while the FTSE 25 Kenya index is down 107.57. More live market data will be coming to you via KTN Business, but first, let's take a break.
Hundreds of children like Kevin and Ibrahim need heart surgery. Touch a child's heart by participating in the Matter Heart Run on the 26th of May. The run shall be flagged off at 7 a.m. in Nyayo Stadium, Nairobi, Buka Academy, Mumias, and Baraki Stadium, Mombasa. Support the kids by buying t-shirts, cups, and wristbands from all Nakumats in Nairobi and Mombasa, The Junction, Capital Center, Galitos, and Timor. You can also donate via our M-Pesa number 526-300. Talk to us for more details. The Matter Heart Run. Touch a child's heart.
Now, listed insurance firm Jubilee Insurance has posted a pre-tax profit, has rolled out an ambitious market penetration to increase customer base. Now, the insurance service provider says it's targeting to have 2 million policy holders under its wing by 2020. Currently, the insurance industry in Kenya has been offering to appeal to customers. The provider further notes it will be anchoring its rollout in the bank insurance across the East African market. These results came out on Wednesday during its 75th annual general meeting held in Nairobi.
Rating Officer, Kenya, Mr. Patrick Tumbo, presenting Composite and Right of the Year.
Now, the Kenya Fluorspar Company Limited in Elgeyo Marakwet County has acquired a new market in India. This is after the company opened the new gate following a closure of 2 years due to lack of market. Speaking during the celebration of 1 million injury-free man-hours, the company will also export its products to Europe and for new developed markets to realize the Elgeyo Marakwet areas. 15% of Kenya's Fluorspar royalties will be allocated to the county.
Back into the bed. It's like this and doing this. It's going through this.
Thank you. We used to produce in the past approximately 95 to 100,000 tons per year, and due to efficiency improvements, we managed to increase our output last year to 117,000 tons. And this year we are even including more efficiency improvements, so we are targeting 125 to 130,000 tons of production this year.
And the Fluorspar story leads us to more mining story, and I'm now joined by Julius Nyabichi from Athi River Mining to talk everything to us about mining. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Now, recently you had, I don't want to call it a dispute, but let's say differences with NEMA. Okay. Then also we looked at, you did some impressive results, and now we hear you're rebranding. Tell us about that.
Really, we have not had a dispute with NEMA.
Yes.
Athi River Mining.
I stand corrected.
Yeah. Athi River Mining is the first company, is the first cement company in East Africa to have attained the ISO 14001-2004 certification for sound environmental management programs. So we have always been compliant, and we have always been compliant as far as the regulations from NEMA are concerned. What happened earlier this year is that we'd closed down for our routine maintenance, our annual routine maintenance, to bring up to date our technology at the factory level in Kaloleni, and therefore we were not closed down. After a short while,
there were a few requirements that NEMA wanted from you. Did you meet them?
Of course, we did. We met all those requirements. We are back in production as usual after our routine maintenance programs. So we don't have a dispute. We are all compliant every other time. Yeah.
You rebranded recently.
We have not rebranded, but we are in the process of rebranding. Athi River Mining is a company that is undergoing very fast expansion programs. We are now, besides having programs in Kenya, having production in Kenya for cement. We are now in Tanzania, in 2 sites, in Tanga and also in Dar es Salaam. We are now in Rwanda, taken over substantial shares in Rwanda Cement. We also have operations in South Africa. Athi River Mining has got a number of products. We've got the cement, Rhino Cement, which is the main product. We also have Mavuno fertilizer. We have minerals like sodium silicate. We also have the Rhino special building products. Now, what this means is that we have got to come up with a brand that really reflects the business volumes
that you do
in Athi River Mining. And important to note is that over 7% of the business of the volumes in Athi River Mining is contributed by the cement division. That is Rhino Cement. That is this year. As we move on to next year, because of our production that we intend to start in Tanzania, then over 90% of the Athi River Mining business is going to be under the Rhino Cement. And that is important. Now we are rebranding. This has been passed by the board of directors. It is awaiting ratification and confirmation by the annual general meeting that instead of having it to be Athi River Mining, we shall have it ARM Cement. So the name is going to ARM Cement. And of course, I hope you understand.
What has been the name of your cement brand currently?
Rhino Cement.
Rhino Cement.
Now the whole company is going to be
that into
ARM Cement.
ARM Cement.
So
what's your market capitalization in terms of in the country cement market?
Yeah, we, of course, you know from the Nairobi Stock Exchange, our share is doing very well. We have now, our market capitalization is about 23 billion Kenyan shillings in the country. Of course, our nominal value for our share was about 10 shillings. Now we are at over 200 shillings. Of course, you see, it's a company that's growing fast and also doing very well in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Of course, this has to do with the diversifications of our products. Besides cement, I've indicated, we have fertilizer. We also have other minerals which are used in the industrial, in other industries like the soap industry, the detergent industry, and also the glass industry.
And now that you're going, let me call it, fully into cement business, I stand corrected. We've seen an infiltration of Ugandan cement manufacturing industries coming into Kenya to take a piece of our market. What's your strategy in trying to defend your market share?
That is an important question. This country is a country that is undergoing a lot of infrastructure expansion. We do not, the demand for cement in this country is growing very fast. It's growing at about 14% per year.
Yes.
Last year we consumed about 4 million metric tons of cement. This year we hope to consume about 4.5 million metric tons of cement. So you can see that we are not lacking the market. In fact, Kenya is exporting a lot of cement to Uganda. Uganda, in essence, virtually manufactures no cement. So what we are doing as a company, for instance, we know there is a lot of market in Tanzania. We know there is a lot of space for expansion for our markets in Kenya. We are doing that. It's only in 2010 that we commissioned our second plant in Kenya at Athi River, besides the plant which has been there in Kaloleni at the coast.
And in the local market in Kenya, which are these areas that, as Athi River mining, you still consider untapped and you'd like to go into?
Of course, Athi River mining, we know the housing industry is growing. We know the road construction industry is growing. And now we're changing. In fact, the technology, the road construction technology is moving more into cement because it's more durable to build roads using cement. So we know that before long, it's going to be fully implemented, and there is a lot of demand for cement that's going to be required in the road industry. So we need to tap into that because we are now changing the technology from what we have been using in road construction to cement-based construction in road industry. So that's what we are looking at now.
Very lastly, of course, Kenya's GDP is heavily dependent on agriculture, and you are a company that manufactures fertilizers. What's your strategy? Do you have expansion plans? What's the future for the fertilizer arm of your company?
Of course, fertilizer will always remain relevant in Kenyans' minds because we know fertilizer is a product that's needed in large quantities and it's increasing every other year. The approach Athi River Mining is giving it is that we now want to manufacture tailor-made fertilizer for the farmers of this country. We want to manufacture soil-specific fertilizers and also crop-specific fertilizers. What I mean by this is that if you get a fertilizer that is manufactured elsewhere, that is being gotten into Africa, and we are using the same fertilizer all over Africa, we all understand that all our soils are not the same. We all understand that we are not growing the same crops. That's one. Two, what Athi River Mining is doing through Mavuno Fertilizer is now to pack the fertilizers in affordable and small quantities so that the small-scale farmers, who are very many in this country, can be able to afford that fertilizer. And also our research is now more towards cost reduction so that we can have this fertilizer cheaply to the farmer and affordably, but high-quality fertilizer. That is important.
How much of Athi River fertilizer is used in Kenya, and how much do you import?
This country imports, the requirement for fertilizer in this country is about 500,000 metric tons every year.
Yes.
Athi River Mining, we are coming in a small way. Of course, we are contributing about 50,000 metric tons of fertilizer that the farmers use in this country. And we hope to increase that substantially so that we can have a bigger market share when we talk about fertilizer in this country.
Is there unfair competition coming from the importers who, some say, bring cheap fertilizer into the local market? Do you see that as huge competition, and what are you doing about that?
In fact, what I would say is we need to streamline the subsidy program in this country. In that if the government wants to subsidize fertilizer in the country, then the government needs to look at the local market. If we have fertilizer as a company, for instance, as Athi River Mining, can the government subsidize that fertilizer that is in the country instead of the government importing the fertilizer? Because the government is not in the business of fertilizer. The government is only there to regulate what is there in the market. So we need to look at the subsidy program to make it more predictable so that farmers know come next year the subsidy is going to be there and this is going to be the cost of fertilizer, and that fertilizer is going to be readily available in the market.
Lastly, you said you're rebranding from Athi River Mining to
ARM Cement.
ARM Cement. Well, good luck. There you have it, Julius Nyabichi from Athi River Mining telling us about the rebrand and the restructuring that is happening in that market, and of course exciting news for farmers who will be probably they're pushing things towards their end. And now looking at further afield, the leading personal computer maker Hewlett Packard, otherwise known as HP, is set to lay off 27,000 members of its global staff in the next 2 years in a bid to increase its revenue. And the world's #1 PC maker registered a 31% decline in second quarter profit and a 3% decline in revenue compared with a year ago. The company said the layoffs would be made mainly through early retirement and will generate annual revenue of $3 billion to $3.5 billion US in the as it exits its fiscal year 2014, when the layoffs are expected to be completed. And now some positive news in the local industry, where Rural Electrification Authority has been awarded the International Organization for Standard Certification, otherwise known as the ISO certification, by the Kenya Bureau of Standards, following its achievement in promoting electricity access to more than 70%. The authority, tasked with implementation of the Rural Electrification Program, has facilitated electricity connection to 15,000 public facilities by May this year and is aiming at getting to 100% electricity access by 2014. The certification means the authority management system has been audited and verified that it conforms to the required KBS standards.
Because of the intensification of the electrification program, we have been able to connect 18,000 out of the 25,000. That is 73%.
Well, congratulations to them. This has been your home of business, KTN Financial Markets Live, on the day that Express Limited was the day's top gainer, up 8.82% to sell at 3 shillings and 70 cents. Now do join us for more concise look at your business news making headlines around the world and locally on our other bulletin, KTN Business Today, later on in the evening. My name is Boni Tunya. Do have a lovely afternoon.
The fastest 3G internet all over Kenya from Safaricom.
Even the British athletes who have experienced the Olympics before know that London 2012 and an adoring home crowd is once in a lifetime. Hopefuls like Mo Farah can hardly wait.
Oh yeah, it's going to be amazing competing in London. As you said, I can't think too much ahead yet. Just got to take one race at a time, 1 year at a time.
Of course, you want to do your friends, family and your support system networks proud. So it's good to have support. It's also important to stay focused. As soon as I tell someone I do athletics, they're like, oh, you do running? I'm like, yeah. They're like, oh, you go in the Olympics? That's the first question anyone asks. So if I actually went to the Olympics, and when people ask me, oh, did you go to the Olympics? I can say, yeah, I did.
For the host nation heroes, it's game on.
This is KTN Entertainment. Enjoy it. The following program has been rated PG. It may contain scenes that...
Usijali mama, kesho mapema nitarudi mimi. Na kukumbuka na kukujali na kuthamini. Hey, kuna wengi sana wako kama mimi. Wanapenda sana wawahi kazini. Unadhani mpenzi bila ya kazi takula nini? Ukumbini shazi wote tayari na ngojwa mimi hanilo. Kuna wengi sana wako kama mimi. Wanapenda sana wawahi kazini. Unadhani mpenzi bila ya kazi takula nini? Ukumbini shazi wote tayari na ngojwa mimi hanilo. Mida ya kazi hanilo. Mida ya kazi mpenzi hata niwahi kazini. Najua umenisi hata kwanza niwahi kazini. Nikirudi utakisi ngoja kwanza niwahi kazini. Najua umenisi hata kwanza niwahi kazini. Nikirudi utakisi ngoja kwanza niwahi kazini. Mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi mpenzi hata niwahi kazini. Mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi mpenzi hata niwahi kazini. Najua mpenzi wangu unanipenda. Najua mpenzi wangu unanijali. Lakini mpenzi bila ya kazi taishi vipi? Acha nifanye kazi kesho mapema nitarudi mimi. Hey, mwenzako nikichelewa nata pesa nitakosa. Ona ninavyopigiwa na boss ananipa. Mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi, mida ya kazi mpenzi acha niwahi kazini.